Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Ethan Lewis. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened at Dead Horse Point in October 2023, even if no one believes me. I don't expect you to. I wouldn't have believed it either. Marcus Chen and Travis Webb were my college roommates. We'd been doing these camping trips every fall since we graduated, our way of keeping in touch now that we all lived in different states. Marcus was in Seattle working for Amazon. Travis ran a small construction company in Denver, and I'd stayed in Phoenix doing IT work. The trips were usually pretty low-key. We'd rent an RV, find some remote spot, drink too much beer, and complain about getting older. This year, Travis picked a Dead Horse Point State Park in Utah. He'd been there before and said it was perfect. Isolated, good views, not too crowded in October. We rented a 28-foot RV from a place outside Moab and drove out on a Thursday afternoon. The plan was 4 nights, back home by Monday. The campsite was exactly what Travis promised. We got spot 17, which was on the eastern edge of the campground, kind of separated from the other RVs by a cluster of juniper trees. You could see the canyon from our site, though honestly, it was hard to appreciate during the day. Too bright, too vast. It just looked like a big, empty space. We set up around 4 p.m. Marcus insisted on going through the whole RV checklist. Water hookup, electrical, stabilizer jacks, the works. Travis and I just wanted to crack open beers, but Marcus was like that. Everything had to be done right. Travis made jokes about Marcus being middle-aged now, really settling into the suburban dad vibe. Marcus had gotten married 2 years ago, and his wife Sarah was pregnant, due in December. He showed us the ultrasound pictures again, even though we'd already seen them over text. "You're going to be insufferable when that kid actually arrives," Travis said, but he was grinning. We were happy for Marcus. He'd always been the responsible one. We grilled burgers that night, sat outside in our folding chairs watching the sunset. There were maybe 6 or 7 other RVs in the campground, all spaced pretty far apart. Quiet crowd. A retired couple in an Airstream 2 spots down. A family with young kids closer to the entrance. No one bothering anyone. Around 10 p.m., we headed inside. The RV had a small dinette area that converted into a bed, and there was a bedroom in the back with a queen mattress. Marcus took the bedroom since he was the only married one and apparently needed his sleep. Travis and I would alternate the dinette and the overhead cab bed. The inside of the RV was typical rental stuff, beige everything, smelled like old plastic and air freshener. There was a small TV mounted on the wall, but we didn't bother turning it on. We played cards for a while, Texas Hold'em with quarters, drinking cheap whiskey Travis had brought. Around midnight, we called it. I took the dinette bed that first night. Marcus went to the back bedroom. Travis climbed up into the cab. I remember lying there, listening to the RV creak as it settled. You could hear Travis snoring almost immediately. Marcus was moving around in the bedroom, probably texting Sarah. I fell asleep sometime after 1 a.m. When I woke up, sunlight was coming through the windows. I checked my phone, 7:14 a.m. Friday morning. Marcus was already up making coffee in the small RV kitchen. Travis was still snoring in the cab bed. "Sleep okay?" Marcus asked. "Yeah, fine. You?" "That mattress is terrible, but yeah." We had coffee. Travis eventually crawled down, complaining about a headache from the whiskey. We made breakfast, eggs, bacon, the whole deal, and then spent the day hiking around the park. Took the rim trail, got some photos at the overlooks. It was a good day. Normal. That night, we did the same thing. Grilled food, sat outside, played cards. I was taking the cab bed. Travis had the dinette. We turned in around midnight again. I woke up at 7:14 a.m. on Saturday morning to the smell of coffee. Marcus was in the kitchen, making coffee. Travis was snoring in the dinette bed below me. I climbed down, feeling that dull whiskey headache from the night before. "Sleep okay?" Marcus asked. I stopped, looked at him. "You asked me that yesterday," I said. Marcus frowned. "What?" Yesterday morning, you asked if I slept okay. Same way. Same words. Okay? He poured coffee into a mug. It's a normal question, Ethan. I ask it every morning. He was right, it was a normal question, but something felt off. I couldn't place it. We made breakfast, eggs and bacon. Travis complained about his headache. Didn't we already do this? I said. Travis looked at me like I was stupid. Do what? Make breakfast? Yeah, we do it every day. That's how breakfast works. No, I stopped. It sounded crazy even in my head. Never mind. We went hiking again, same trail as yesterday. And this is where it got weird because I remembered specific things. There was a spot about 2 miles in where Travis had stopped to take a photo of a lizard on a rock. And sure enough, when we got to that exact spot, there was a lizard. Same rock. Travis pulled out his phone to take a picture. You already took that photo, I said. No, I didn't. Yesterday, same lizard, same rock. Travis laughed. Dude, it's not the same lizard. There are like 1 million lizards out here. But I knew it was the same one. We got back to the RV around 4 p.m. Grilled food. I was watching everything now, paying attention. Marcus told the same story about his neighbor's dog that he'd told the night before. Same words, same pauses for effect. Travis made the same joke about Marcus being a suburban dad. Same laugh. Something's wrong, I said. They both looked at me. What are you talking about? Marcus asked. This, all of this. We already did this. Yesterday. Yeah, we did stuff yesterday, Travis said slowly. That's how time works, man. Are you feeling okay? I tried to explain it. The coffee, the breakfast, the hike, Marcus's story, all of it. They thought I was messing with them at first. Then they got concerned. Asked if I was feeling sick, if maybe I'd had too much sun. Marcus suggested I drink some water and lie down. I didn't lie down. I stayed up watching them. We played cards, same hands, same bets, same outcomes. I won 3 rounds, Travis won 5, Marcus won 2. Exactly like the night before. Around midnight, Marcus yawned and said he was going to bed. Travis followed a few minutes later. They expected me to do the same. I'm staying up, I said. Why? Travis asked. I need to see what happens. What are you talking about? I didn't answer. They exchanged glances, that look people give each other when they think someone's losing it. Then they shrugged and went to bed. Marcus to the back, Travis to the cab. I sat at the dinette table with my phone keeping myself awake. I watched the time. 12:30 a.m. 1 a.m. 1:15 a.m. At 1:23 a.m., everything went black. Not like someone turned off the lights, like the world just stopped. No transition, no sensation of falling asleep. Just instant nothing. Then I was waking up to the smell of coffee. 7:14 a.m. Sunday morning. Marcus was making coffee. Travis was snoring in the dinette bed. Sleep okay? Marcus asked. I didn't answer. I grabbed my phone and checked the date. Sunday, October 15th, 2023. I opened my messages. The last text I'd sent was Thursday afternoon, telling my boss I'd be out of cell range for a few days. What day is it? I asked. Sunday, Marcus said. What did we do yesterday? He looked at me. Went hiking, same as Friday, why? And the day before that? Thursday we drove in and set up. Ethan, what's going on with you? He didn't remember. Neither of them remembered. To them it was a normal Sunday morning after a normal Saturday. They had no memory of living the same day 3 times. I thought about trying to prove it to them, predicting what they'd say, what would happen. But I knew how that would go. They'd say I was making good guesses or that we were just creatures of habit, or they'd get seriously worried about my mental state. No matter what I did, they wouldn't believe me. So I kept quiet. We went through the day, breakfast, hiking, dinner, cards. I said nothing about the loop. I was looking for something, anything that was different, some change, some clue about why this was happening. And I found it. When we went hiking, I paid close attention to everything. The lizard was there again, same rock. Marcus told his dog story at dinner, but when we were playing cards around 11 p.m., Travis got up to use the bathroom. When he came back, he looked different. Not physically. He looked exactly the same. But something in his expression was off. His smile was too wide. His eyes didn't quite track right, like he was focusing on something just to the left of your face instead of making real eye contact. "You okay?" I asked. "I'm great," he said. That smile didn't move. Never better. We finished playing cards. Travis won 6 rounds instead of 5. He laughed at his own jokes, but the laugh was wrong. Too loud. Too long. Marcus didn't seem to notice. He yawned, said he was going to bed. Travis and I stayed up a bit longer. "Something's happening," I said quietly. Travis looked at me with that weird smile. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean." His head tilted. "Do I?" I didn't push it. We went to bed. I stayed awake as long as I could, but sometime after 1 a.m. the blackness came again. 7:14 a.m., coffee smell. Monday morning, except it wasn't really Monday. Marcus was in the kitchen. Travis was in the dinette bed, but he was already awake, sitting up, looking at me, smiling. "Morning, Ethan," he said. "Morning." We went through the routine, breakfast. But now Travis was different in ways Marcus still didn't notice. He moved too smoothly. His reactions were a split second off. When Marcus made a joke, Travis laughed before the punchline. During the hike, Travis started walking ahead of us. Not rushing, just maintaining a distance of about 20 feet. I watched him. His gait was wrong. Too even. Too rhythmic, like he was counting steps. "Travis seems weird," I said to Marcus. Marcus shrugged. "He's probably just tired of hearing us talk about the baby." "No, I mean actually weird. Haven't you noticed?" "Noticed what?" We got to the lizard rock. This time Travis didn't stop to take a photo, he just kept walking. That night at dinner, Travis barely ate. He pushed food around his plate, still smiling. When Marcus asked if he was feeling okay, Travis said, "I'm perfect. Everything's perfect." "You sure?" "You seem—" I said I'm perfect. The temperature in his voice dropped. Marcus backed off. We played cards, but Travis kept staring at me. Not looking at his cards, just staring. He won 8 rounds. His hands moved automatically, like he knew what cards were coming. "How are you doing that?" I asked. "Doing what?" "Winning. You're not even looking at your cards." He smiled wider. "Just lucky, I guess." Marcus went to bed at midnight. Travis and I sat there in the silence. I was exhausted physically and mentally. 4 days of the same day. 4 days of knowing something was wrong and not being able to fix it. "You're not Travis," I said. He looked at me. "Of course I'm Travis. Who else would I be?" "I don't know. But you're not him. You're stressed, Ethan. You should sleep." "What happens at 1:23? His expression didn't change. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The reset. What causes it?" "There's no reset. You're imagining things." I was too tired to argue, too tired to stay awake. I went to bed, and the blackness came. 7:14 a.m. Tuesday. That wasn't Tuesday. But this time when I woke up, Travis was standing in the kitchen with Marcus, standing exactly the same way, same posture, same smile. "Morning, Ethan," they said in unison. I sat up fast. "Marcus?" Marcus turned to me, and his eyes had that same wrong focus as Travis's. "Sleep okay?" "What happened to you?" "Nothing happened. I'm fine. We're all fine." They moved around the kitchen together, their movements synchronized. When one reached for the coffee pot, the other reached for mugs. When one turned, the other turned with him. "Stop it," I said. "Both of you, stop." "Stop what?" Travis asked. "This, whatever this is. You're not them. You're not my friends." "We're exactly your friends," Marcus said. "We're just better versions." They smiled at me. The same smile. I didn't eat breakfast. I stayed in the RV while they went outside. Through the window I could see them standing by the chairs, perfectly still, looking toward the canyon. Not moving, just standing. I checked my phone. No service, but that was normal out here. I opened the photos. I had pictures from Thursday from when we'd set up. Normal pictures of Marcus and Travis helping with the RV, making stupid faces at the camera. They looked like themselves. Real. I went outside. We need to leave. They turned to me in perfect sync. Why would we leave? Travis asked. We just got here. It's been 5 days, 5 times the same day. You know it has been. That doesn't make sense, Marcus said. Time doesn't work like that. It does here. It is here, and something's wrong with both of you. They looked at each other, then back at me. Nothing's wrong with us, they said together. You're the one acting strange. I went back inside, locked the door, which was stupid because they had the keys too. I sat at the dinette table trying to think. There had to be a way out. Some trigger, some condition that would break the loop. The RV door opened. Travis and Marcus came in. Ethan, Travis said, his voice soft. We're worried about you. You're not Travis. I don't know what you are, but you're not him. We're trying to help you, Marcus said. You're not well. You need to rest. They moved closer. I backed toward the bedroom. Stay away from me. We just want to help. Their voices overlapped, creating a strange echo effect. I ran for the bedroom, slammed the door. There was a lock. Just a simple push-button thing. Not much security, but it was something. I could hear them outside, talking in low voices. Then nothing. I waited. An hour passed. 2 hours. I checked my phone. It was almost 4 p.m. In the normal loop, we'd be getting back from hiking right now. But we'd never gone hiking. The day was different. I'd changed it. Maybe that was the key. Maybe breaking the routine would break the loop. Around 5 p.m., I heard the RV door open and close. Footsteps outside. I looked out the small bedroom window and saw Travis and Marcus walking away from the RV, heading toward the canyon rim. They were holding hands. I waited until they were out of sight, then unlocked the bedroom door. The RV was empty. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my phone. I'd leave. I'd drive the RV out of here. That would break it. I got into the driver's seat, put the key in the ignition, turned it. Nothing. The engine didn't even try to turn over. I tried again. Again. Nothing. The RV was completely dead. Through the windshield, I could see Travis and Marcus walking back. They were moving faster now, not running, but moving with purpose. I got out of the driver's seat, went to the door, tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. The handle turned, but the door was stuck, like someone had sealed it from the outside. They were at the RV now. Their faces appeared in the windows, looking in at me, still smiling. "Let us in, Ethan," Travis said, his voice muffled through the glass. "We need to help you," Marcus added. "You're sick. You're confused. We can make it better." I backed away from the windows. They circled the RV, their faces appearing in each window as they passed. The same face, really. They looked identical now, despite having different features. The wrongness had synchronized them completely. "This won't work," I shouted. "Whatever you are, whatever you want, it won't work. We just want you to understand," they said in perfect unison. "Understand what?" "That you can't leave. That you were never meant to leave. That this is home now." The sun was setting. I could see it through the windows, the light turning red and orange. In the normal loop, we'd be grilling dinner right now. But there would be no dinner tonight. No cards. No midnight. What happened instead was worse. At 7:14 p.m., the same time I'd been waking up, the RV started to shake. Not violently, just a subtle vibration, like something huge was moving underneath it. Travis and Marcus were still outside, but now they were just standing there, watching, waiting. The shaking intensified. I heard metal groaning, rivets popping. The whole RV was coming apart, and then it stopped. Everything was still. I was standing in the dinette area, and Travis and Marcus were there with me. Inside. I hadn't heard them enter, hadn't heard the door open. They were just there. How did you? Doesn't matter, Travis said. None of this matters. The rules don't apply here. Where is here? Dead Horse Point, Marcus said, like it was obvious. Where we've always been, where we'll always be. The loop. There is no loop, Travis interrupted. There's just this, one long moment, repeated and refined. Each cycle we understand it better. Each cycle, we become more part of it. And now it's your turn, Marcus said. They reached for me. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Their hands touched my face and everything changed. I understood. The loop wasn't trapping us. We were the loop. We were the moment, repeating itself, creating itself, consuming itself. There was no escape because there was nowhere to escape to. This was all there was. All there had ever been. I felt myself changing. Felt the wrongness spreading through me like ice water in my veins. My thoughts became clearer and emptier at the same time. I knew exactly what I was supposed to do and why and how, even though it made no sense. We stood there, the three of us, perfectly still, waiting. For what? For tomorrow. For 7:14 a.m. For the coffee and the question and the whole beautiful, terrible cycle to begin again. I smiled. Everything was perfect. I'm writing this in the few moments I have left. I don't know when I'll lose myself completely. Maybe it already happened. Maybe I lost myself days ago, weeks ago, and this is just the last echo of who I was. The others are waiting outside. I can see them through the window, standing by the canyon. They want me to join them, to accept it, to stop fighting. The worst part is that I want to. God help me, I want to. Because fighting is exhausting, and accepting would be so easy. No more confusion, no more fear. Just the loop, clean and simple and eternal. But I'm writing this anyway, because someone needs to know. If you're reading this, if you somehow found this notebook in an RV at Dead Horse Point State Park, don't stay the night. Don't let the sun set on you here. Get in your car and drive away and don't look back. Because at 7:14 a.m. I'll wake up to the smell of coffee. Marcus will ask if I slept okay. Travis will be snoring. And we'll do it all again. We'll do it forever. Every night repeating, except for one new terrible change. Last night there were 3 of us. Tonight, when the RV door opens, when the new campers arrive at spot 17, when they set up and make dinner and play cards and go to sleep, tomorrow morning there will be 4, and we'll all smile the same smile, and we'll all wait for you. My name is Ethan Lewis. I'm 34 years old. I live in Phoenix. I work in IT. I have a sister named Jennifer and a mother who still calls me every Sunday. I had friends named Marcus Chen and Travis Webb. We went camping. My name is Ethan Lewis. I'm 34 years old. I live. My name is Ethan. My name. 7:14 a.m. The coffee smells perfect. Everything is perfect. Sleep okay? Marcus asks. Yeah, I hear myself say. I slept great, and I'm smiling. Story 2. My name is Hannah Clark, and I need to tell you what happened at Fish Lake National Forest last September. I'm writing this down because I don't know if I'll remember it correctly tomorrow, or if anyone will believe me, or if it even matters anymore. But I need to get it out while I still can. My boyfriend Derek and I had been planning the trip for months. We'd bought a used RV back in June. Nothing fancy. Just a 1998 Winnebago that Derek found on Craigslist for $8,000. It needed work, but that was part of the appeal for him. He liked fixing things, liked having projects. The RV became his obsession all summer while I was finishing my thesis on regional folklore traditions in the American Southwest. We left Salt Lake City on a Thursday morning, September 12th. I remember the date because it was my sister's birthday and I'd promised to call her that evening. I never did. The drive to Fish Lake took about 3 hours, winding through increasingly remote terrain until we reached the Forest Service roads. Derek had picked out a dispersed camping spot he'd found on some RV forum, away from the developed campgrounds, just a clearing near a creek. "This is perfect," he said when we pulled in around 2 in the afternoon. "No one around for miles." He was right about that. The clearing was surrounded by aspen trees, their leaves just starting to turn gold. The creek burbled nearby. It looked exactly like the kind of place you'd see in a camping magazine. Picture perfect. That should have been my first warning. We spent the rest of Thursday setting up, leveling the RV, running the generator, testing the water hookups. Derek was in heaven tinkering with all the systems. I made dinner on the little propane stove while he fiddled with the solar panels he'd installed. We ate outside as the sun went down, watching the aspens turn silver in the twilight. "This is exactly what we needed," Derek said. "Just us. No phones, no work, no stress." I'd turned my phone off when we left Salt Lake. So had he. That was the whole point. Disconnect, unplug, spend quality time together. We'd been fighting a lot lately. Small things that turned into big things. He thought I worked too much. I thought he didn't take my career seriously enough. The usual stuff couples go through. This trip was supposed to fix that. That first night was fine. Normal. We made love in the cramped RV bed, fell asleep listening to the creek. I woke up once around 3 a.m. because I thought I heard something outside. Footsteps, maybe. But when I looked out the window, I didn't see anything, just trees and moonlight. Friday morning, we decided to hike. There were supposed to be some interesting geological formations about 2 miles north of our campsite, according to Derek's offline maps. We packed water, snacks, and headed out around 9. The trail wasn't marked, but Derek had downloaded GPS coordinates. We followed his phone's compass through the aspens, and that's when I started noticing something odd. The trees all looked the same. I mean, I know aspen groves are clones, genetically identical, but this felt different. Every time I looked around, I had this disorienting sensation that we hadn't moved at all. "Does it feel like we're walking in circles?" I asked Derek. He checked his phone. "No, we're making progress. We've come about 1.5 miles. But it didn't feel like it. I couldn't explain it. The light seemed wrong too bright, too white, filtering through the leaves in a way that made everything look flat and dimensionless. We found it about 20 minutes later. Derek saw it first. "Jesus Christ," he said, stopping so abruptly I almost walked into him. The skeleton was sitting against a tree, partially covered by fallen leaves. It had been there a long time. The bones were sun-bleached, the clothing rotted to almost nothing. But that's not what made us both freeze. It was holding a mirror, not clutching it like it had died, grasping for something. The skeleton's hands were deliberately positioned around an ornate hand mirror, holding it upright against its chest like it was showing us something. The mirror itself was bizarrely intact. No cracks, no tarnish. The frame looked like silver, worked into intricate patterns that hurt to look at too closely. "We should call someone," I said. My voice sounded strange in the clearing, too loud. "There's no signal," Derek said. He was already moving closer. "Hannah, this person has been here for years, decades maybe. Don't touch it." "I'm not going to touch it, I'm just looking." But he did touch it. Of course he did. Derek always had to know how things worked, had to see for himself. He reached out and picked up the mirror carefully, like he was afraid it might disintegrate. "Derek, put that down. We need to mark this spot and report it to the rangers." "Look at this craftsmanship," he said, turning the mirror over in his hands. "This is seriously old, like antique old, the silverwork alone." "I don't care, put it back." He looked at me then, and something in his face made my stomach drop. His expression was blank, totally neutral, like someone had unplugged him and he was running on autopilot. "Derek? It's just a mirror, Hannah. Put it back." He did eventually. Set it back in the skeleton's hands, positioned just the way it had been. We stood there for another minute, neither of us saying anything. The forest was completely silent. No birds, no wind, just that weird, flat light filtering through the aspens. "We should go," I said. Derek nodded, but he kept looking back at the skeleton as we walked away. I had to physically pull him by the arm to get him moving. The hike back took hours, or it felt like hours. Derek's GPS said we'd only been gone 45 minutes total, but that couldn't be right. The sun was in the wrong position. My watch said it was 10:30 a.m., but the light looked like late afternoon. Something's wrong with my watch, I said. Mine too. Dead battery, maybe. But that didn't make sense. We'd both put in fresh batteries before the trip. When we got back to the RV, Derek immediately went to his laptop. He had a bunch of folklore and history PDFs downloaded for me, stuff I'd been collecting for my thesis. He started searching through them like a man possessed. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "Mirrors. Folklore about mirrors in the American Southwest. Utah isn't exactly the Southwest." "Close enough." I wanted to tell him to stop, that we should just pack up and leave, drive back to civilization and report what we'd found. But I didn't. I sat down next to him and started helping him search. We found references to scrying mirrors, to Aztec obsidian mirrors used for divination, to Spanish colonial legends about mirrors that showed the future. Nothing specific to this region, nothing that matched what we'd seen. But the more we read, the more uneasy I became. "This is stupid," I finally said. "We're freaking ourselves out over nothing." "It's not nothing. It's a dead hiker who happened to be carrying an antique mirror, probably a collector who got lost and died of exposure. Tragic, but not supernatural." Derek closed the laptop. "You're right. Sorry. That was weird, you know? The way it was positioned." "I know." We tried to salvage the rest of the day, made lunch, read books, pretended everything was normal, but it wasn't. Derek kept looking toward the trees, toward the direction we'd hiked that morning, and I couldn't stop thinking about that mirror, about the way the light had reflected off its surface when Derek picked it up. There had been something in the reflection, I realized. Something that wasn't us. That night, Derek went for a walk before bed. Said he needed to clear his head. I told him not to go far, to take a flashlight, to be back in 20 minutes. He promised he would. He wasn't. At first, I wasn't worried. Derek liked to walk at night, liked to stargaze. But after an hour, I started calling for him. No answer. I grabbed a flashlight and went looking, following the creek like I thought he might have done. The forest at night was different. The aspens looked silver-white in my flashlight beam, their trunks too straight, too uniform. I kept seeing movement in my peripheral vision, shapes between the trees that vanished when I turned to look directly at them. "Derek!" I shouted. My voice echoed wrong, came back to me distorted. I found him sitting by the creek, about a quarter mile from the RV. He was just sitting there on a rock, hands folded in his lap, staring at the water. "Derek, what the hell? I've been looking for you." He didn't respond. Didn't even acknowledge I was there. I touched his shoulder and he flinched so violently he nearly fell off the rock. "Hannah?" He looked at me like he'd never seen me before. "What are you doing here?" "What am I, Derek? You've been gone for over an hour." "I was looking for you." "I just came out here, 5 minutes ago." "It's been an hour." He checked his phone. Still dead. Frowned. "That can't be right." We went back to the RV. Derek was quiet the whole way, and I had this creeping feeling that something had changed. The way he walked was different. The way he breathed. Small things that I couldn't quite name, but that made my skin crawl. In bed that night, he turned toward me, and I saw his eyes in the faint light from the window. They were reflecting the moonlight wrong, like an animal's eyes. "Derek, are you okay?" "I'm fine, why?" "You just seem off." He smiled. That was worse than the eyes. His smile was too wide, showing too many teeth. "I'm perfect," he said. "Everything's perfect." I didn't sleep that night. I lay there listening to him breathe, wondering why his breathing sounded wet, rattling. He'd been fine yesterday. No cold, no allergies. Now he sounded like he had fluid in his lungs. Saturday morning, Derek was up before me. I found him outside, digging. "What are you doing?" "Leveling the RV, noticed it was tilted." The RV was already level. He'd spent an hour on Thursday making sure it was perfect. But now he was digging underneath the tires, making piles of dirt, moving rocks around. "Derek, it's fine. You already leveled it." "No, I didn't. Look." He pointed at the bubble level on the RV's side. It was perfectly centered. "See? We're not level." "That shows we are level." He looked at me with that blank expression again. "Hannah, I know how to read a level." I didn't argue. Something was very wrong, but I didn't know what to do about it. We were miles from cell service, miles from help. And Derek was... I didn't even know what Derek was anymore. I decided to hike back to the skeleton. I don't know why. Maybe I thought seeing it again in daylight would make it less scary, less supernatural. Maybe I thought I could prove to myself that we'd imagined how strange it was. I went alone. Derek didn't even notice me leave. He was still digging around the RV tires, moving the same rocks back and forth. I found the spot easier than I should have. The GPS coordinates on my dead phone shouldn't have worked, but I walked straight to it like I'd been there 100 times before. The skeleton was exactly as we'd left it, sitting against the tree, holding the mirror. I knelt down in front of it. This close, I could see details I'd missed before. The clothing scrap suggested someone from maybe the 70s or 80s, polyester bell-bottom style. Male, probably, based on the size of the bones. The mirror, though. The mirror looked ancient. The silver frame was worked with symbols that might have been Spanish or Aztec or something older, something that predated both. I reached out. I know I shouldn't have. I knew it the whole time my hand was moving, but I couldn't stop myself. My fingers touched the mirror's handle. The reflection showed the clearing, the trees, the skeleton, me kneeling there. Then it changed. It was still the clearing, still the same trees. But it was night, and I was there in the reflection, but I was screaming. My mouth was wide open, my face contorted with terror, and I was looking at something off to the right, something the mirror wasn't showing me. Behind reflection me, I could see Derek. But it wasn't Derek. The thing wearing Derek's body was smiling that too wide smile, and its hands were reaching toward my reflected self's throat. I dropped the mirror. It landed face down in the leaves. I ran. I don't remember the run back. I remember crashing through the aspens, remember my lungs burning, remember falling and scraping my hands bloody on rocks and getting up and running more. When I got back to the clearing, Derek was still there, still digging, covered in dirt and sweat. "We need to leave," I said. "Right now." "Can't. Not level yet." "Derek, I don't care. We're leaving." He stood up. That smile again. "We can't leave, Hannah. We haven't found it yet." "Found what?" "What's buried here?" My hands were shaking. "There's nothing buried here. You're not making sense." "Aren't I?" He took a step toward me. "You saw it too, didn't you? In the mirror." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The future. That's what it shows. That's what it's always shown." He was still moving toward me, casual, like we were having a normal conversation. "The man who brought it here saw his future. That's why he stayed. That's why he kept holding it. He couldn't look away." "Stay back." "You saw yourself, didn't you?" Another step. "You saw what happens. You saw me." I backed toward the RV. "You're not Derek." "I'm exactly Derek. I'm just better now, clearer. I can see what's coming, Hannah. I can see what we're supposed to do." I made it to the RV door, got inside, locked it. Derek, the thing that looked like Derek, stood outside, smiling. He didn't try to get in. He just stood there, watching me through the window. I sat in the driver's seat. The keys were in the ignition where Derek had left them. I could drive out of here. I could leave him here and get help and come back with rangers and police and psychiatrists and figure out what the hell had happened. I turned the key. Nothing. Tried again. The engine didn't even turn over. Dead. Completely dead. Derek was laughing outside. I could hear him through the RV's walls. I checked my phone. Still dead. Found Derek's phone. Also dead. The laptop battery was drained. The solar panels Derek had installed weren't charging anything. Every single piece of electronics in the RV was non-functional. The sun was going down. I realized I'd lost hours again. My watch had stopped completely, frozen at 10:30 a.m., the same time as yesterday. "Hannah," Derek called from outside. "You have to come out eventually." "What do you want?" "I want you to see. I want you to understand. The mirror shows us what's coming, and what's coming is beautiful." "You're insane." "I'm clear. For the first time in my life, I'm completely clear." I watched through the window as he walked to the edge of the clearing and disappeared into the trees. Toward the skeleton, toward the mirror. I knew I should stay in the RV, lock the doors, wait for morning, figure out a plan. But I also knew, with the same certainty I'd known I would touch the mirror, the same certainty I'd known Derek wasn't Derek anymore, that I had to follow him. I found the flashlight, checked that it worked. It did. Barely. The beam was weak, flickering. Outside, the forest was darker than it should have been. The moon was up, nearly full, but its light didn't penetrate the aspen canopy. Everything was shadows. I followed Derek's footprints in the dirt. They led north, toward the skeleton. But the prints were wrong. The spacing was too far apart, like Derek had been taking enormous strides. Or like he'd been running. Or like he wasn't walking on the ground at all. I found him at the clearing. He was sitting exactly where the skeleton sat, holding the mirror in both hands, staring into it. "What do you see?" I asked. "Everything. All of it. Past, present, future. It's all happening at once." I moved closer. The skeleton was still there, but it had moved. It was slumped over now, hands empty. Derek had the mirror. "That man died here," Derek said. 1976. He was a collector. He'd heard legends about a mirror that showed the future, found references in Spanish colonial records. He tracked it here, to this forest. The indigenous people who lived here before colonization had hidden it. They knew what it was. They knew what it did. Put it down. He found it and he looked into it and he saw his death. Saw himself sitting against this tree, holding this mirror, dying of thirst and exposure because he couldn't stop looking. Couldn't stop watching himself die. The future kept changing, kept shifting, but the end was always the same. "Derek, please. Want to know what I see?" He tilted the mirror toward me. "I see you. I see us. I see what we become." I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't look, but my eyes moved to the mirror anyway. The reflection showed the clearing. Night. The skeleton slumped over. Derek sitting against the tree, holding the mirror. And me. I was standing where I stood now, but I was different. Older. Years older. My hair was white. My face was lined. I was wearing the same clothes I was wearing now, but they were rotted, falling apart. And I was smiling. The same smile Derek had been smiling. "See," Derek said. "It's beautiful. We stay here. We keep watching. We see every possibility, every future, every path. We never have to choose. We just watch it all unfold. That's not real. It's the only thing that's real." I grabbed the mirror from his hands. He let me take it. His fingers were cold when they brushed mine. The reflection shifted. Now it showed me alone in the clearing, the two skeletons behind me, Derek and the original man. I was holding the mirror, staring into it. Then the reflection changed again. I saw myself driving the RV away. Alone. Derek's body in the clearing behind me. I'd gotten out. I'd survived. Another shift. I saw myself in a hospital bed, hooked to machines, alive but not alive. Derek sitting next to me, holding my hand. Old. Both of us old. Another shift. I saw the clearing empty. No RV, no bodies. Like we'd never been there at all. The images kept changing, faster and faster. Each one a different future, a different possibility. In some I lived. In some I died. In some I became like Derek, clear-eyed and smiling and not quite human anymore. "You see?" Derek whispered. "This is power. This is knowledge. We can see all the paths. But we can't choose, I said. We can only watch. Watching is enough. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He was still Derek, still the man I'd loved. But there was something else in there now. Something that had been waiting in the forest, waiting in the mirror, waiting for someone to look. I thought about smashing the mirror. I thought about running. I thought about 100 different things, but I kept holding it. Because Derek was right. Once you've seen the future, all the futures, how do you choose just one? How do you walk a single path knowing all the other paths you could have taken? I'm still here. I'm still holding the mirror. Derek is sitting next to me now, his breathing wet and rattling, his eyes reflecting light that isn't there. Sometimes I look up from the mirror and see our RV in the clearing. Sometimes I see skeletons. Sometimes I see nothing at all. The mirror shows me writing this, shows me finishing it, shows me putting down the pen and picking up the mirror again, shows me an infinite regression of myself, watching myself, watching myself. It shows me you too, reading this, wondering if it's real, wondering if you should go to Fish Lake National Forest, to the dispersed camping area near the creek, to the clearing surrounded by aspens. It shows me what you'll find there. Do you want to know? Do you want to see? The mirror is still here, still waiting, still showing futures that branch and multiply and collapse into themselves like waves. I think I've been here for days, or weeks, or years. My watch doesn't work. My phone doesn't work. Time doesn't work the way it used to. Derek doesn't talk anymore. He just sits and breathes and smiles. I keep writing even though I know no one will read this. The notebook appeared in my backpack. Or it was always there. Or it will be there. The mirror makes it hard to tell the difference. Sometimes I think I hear voices from the trees, my sister calling, my mother, friends I haven't talked to in years. They tell me to leave. They tell me to put down the mirror and walk away. But when I look up, there's no one there. Just the aspens. Just Derek. Just the skeleton that used to be a collector from 1976 who couldn't stop looking. Just me. The mirror shows me finishing this sentence. Shows me what comes after. Shows me all the ways this could end. I pick the future where I stop writing now. Where I put down the pen and pick up the mirror and join Derek in watching. In seeing. In becoming clear. Or maybe I pick the future where I smash the mirror against the tree and run screaming into the forest and get lost and die of exposure and become another skeleton for future campers to find. Or maybe I pick the future where I'm already dead, and this is just the mirror's memory of me, playing out on a loop, forever. The mirror doesn't care which future I choose. It shows them all. Hannah Clark, Fish Lake National Forest, September 12th, or September 13th, or September 1st, or 1976. The dates blur together. The mirror shows me this moment from every angle, every timeline, every possibility. I can see you now. In one future, you close this notebook and forget about it. In another, you come looking. In another still, you're already here, reading this by flashlight in the clearing. Derek's skeleton behind you, the mirror in your hands. Can you see yourself in it? Can you see all the futures branching out from this moment? Can you see what you become? The mirror shows me writing these words, shows me you reading them, shows me the future where this matters and the future where it doesn't. All I know for certain is this. I'm still here. I'm still watching, and the mirror is still showing me tomorrow. Story 3. My name is Tyler Scott. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 months ago in Kisatchie Forest, Louisiana, and I still can't explain it. I wish I could say it was all in our heads, that Mara and I somehow influenced each other, fed into each other's fears until we created something that wasn't there. But I can't say that, because too many things happened that we couldn't have imagined, and because when we finally left that place, we left something behind that we can never get back. Mara Chen and I had been together for 2 years when we decided to take the RV trip. She'd been talking about it since spring, getting away from Houston, from the startup job that was grinding her down, from the apartment where the AC barely worked, and the neighbors fought at 2 in the morning. I worked in IT support, the kind of job where you reset passwords all day and pretend to care when someone can't figure out how to attach a file to an email. We were both exhausted in that specific way where you're not physically tired, just worn down to nothing. The RV was her uncle's, a 2015 Winnebago that smelled like old coffee and had a quirk where the bathroom door wouldn't stay closed unless you wedged a shoe against it. We picked it up on a Friday in late September, loaded it with groceries we'd probably never eat, and headed east. Mara had found the campground online, Kisatchie National Forest, a place called Longleaf Vista RV Park. The reviews were sparse but positive, quiet, well-maintained, good hookups. The photos showed standard camping fare, gravel sites beneath tall pines, a small office building, picnic tables. Nothing remarkable. That's what we wanted. Remarkable was the last thing either of us needed. We arrived just before sunset on Saturday. The drive had taken longer than expected, road construction outside of Beaumont, then getting turned around when the GPS lost signal for a solid 20 minutes. By the time we pulled off Highway 119 onto the narrow access road, Mara had that pinched look around her eyes she got when things weren't going according to plan. The campground was smaller than the photo suggested, maybe 15 sites total spread across a horseshoe of cleared ground. Most were empty. I counted 3 other RVs and 1 pop-up camper. The office was a single-story building with a screen door and a hand-painted sign that said, "Check in here." The paint was peeling. A woman in her 60s came out when she heard us pull up. She had gray hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore a Kisatchie Forest staff shirt that had seen better days. "You must be the Scots," she said, checking her clipboard. "Site 7 all the way at the end. You're paid up through Friday, correct?" "That's right," I said. She gave us a map, a photocopied diagram with our site circled in red pen, and pointed out the bathhouses, the dump station, the fire pits. Standard stuff. Then she paused, looking at something on her clipboard. "Just so you know, we had a camper check out early yesterday. Site 9, right next to yours. If you see anyone around there, it's probably just housekeeping. But I wanted to mention it." "Okay," Mara said. "Why would we see anyone?" The woman shrugged. "You probably won't, but the family that was there left in a hurry, left some of their things. We've been trying to reach them to return their stuff, but no luck yet. Phones keep going to voicemail." There was something in the way she said it that made me pay attention. Not quite concerned, but not quite casual either. "What kind of things?" I asked. "Oh, camping gear mostly. One of those expensive coolers. Their daughter's backpack." She waved a hand. "I'm sure they'll call eventually. Anyway, you folks have a good stay. Come find me if you need anything." We drove to Site 7 in silence. The road curved through the trees, and as we went deeper into the campground, the sounds from the highway faded completely. By the time we parked, it was almost dark. Site 7 was at the end of a dead-end spur, backed up against thick forest. Site 9 was to our right, empty except for a picnic table and what looked like an overturned camp chair near the tree line. There was something tied to one of the table legs, a blue ribbon or piece of fabric fluttering in the breeze. "This is nice," Mara said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Quiet." She was right about that. It was almost too quiet. No bird sounds, no insects, nothing. Just the rustle of pine needles and the distant hum of a generator from one of the other sites. We spent the next hour setting up, leveling the RV, hooking up water and electric, arranging our camp chairs around the fire pit. Mara tried to get the propane grill working while I built a fire. The sun had set completely by then, and the darkness under the trees was absolute. Our sight lights barely pushed back the shadows. "Tyler," Mara said. She was standing by the picnic table, holding her phone up. "I'm not getting any signal." I checked mine. Same thing. Not even a single bar. "The woman at the office said sometimes it's spotty out here," I said, though I didn't remember her saying that at all. It just seemed like something she would have mentioned. "Great," Mara muttered. But she didn't push it. She was trying, I could tell. Trying to relax, trying to enjoy this, trying to forget about the emails piling up in her inbox and the presentation she had due the following week. We ate hot dogs and drank beer and watched the fire. The other campers were quiet. No music, no voices, nothing to indicate anyone else was around except for the glow of their lights through the trees. Around 10, we retreated inside the RV. The bed was in the back, separated from the main living area by a thin accordion door that didn't block sound. We lay there in the dark, listening to the forest, and eventually Mara's breathing evened out and I knew she was asleep. I don't remember falling asleep myself, but I must have, because the next thing I knew, I was standing in the forest. Not walking. Standing. Already there, in the middle of the trees, wearing the same clothes I'd gone to bed in. The darkness was complete, the kind of black that presses against your eyes. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. And I knew, with the absolute certainty you only get in dreams, that something was hunting me. I couldn't hear it, couldn't see it, but I felt it the way you feel someone staring at the back of your head. A presence moving through the trees, closing the distance. My heart hammered in my chest. I needed to move, needed to run, but my body wouldn't respond. I just stood there, frozen, while that thing got closer and closer. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not running. Walking. Slow. Deliberate. Crunching through dead leaves and pine needles. Getting louder. I tried to scream and couldn't. The footsteps stopped. In the silence that followed, I heard breathing, right behind me. So close I should have felt it on my neck. I woke up gasping, tangled in the sheets, my shirt soaked with sweat. Mara was sitting up next to me, her face pale in the dim light coming through the window. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "Tyler, I just had the worst dream," I finished. "Yeah, me too." She stared at me. "What happened in yours?" "I was in the forest. Something was hunting me. I couldn't move." The words came out flat, automatic. "You?" "The same," she said slowly. "Exactly the same. Standing in the dark, something getting closer. I couldn't see anything, but I knew it was there. I heard footsteps and then—" "Breathing," I said. "Right behind you." We looked at each other. The rational part of my brain was already working on explanations. We'd both been thinking about the empty campsite next to us, about the family that left in a hurry, and our subconscious had processed that anxiety into similar nightmares. Couples influenced each other. We'd probably been unconsciously responding to each other's movements, feeding into the same dream narrative. But the explanation felt thin even as I thought it. "Weird," Mara said finally. She lay back down, pulled the blanket up to her chin. "I need water." I got up and brought her a bottle from the mini-fridge. My hands were shaking slightly. Outside, the forest was silent. Neither of us slept well after that. The next morning, I convinced myself we'd overreacted. We made coffee, ate breakfast, sat in our camp chairs while the sun filtered through the pine trees. Other campers emerged. A middle-aged couple walking a golden retriever, a man in his 70s doing Tai Chi by his RV. Normal people doing normal things. Mara wanted to go for a hike. There was a trail that started near the bathhouse, looping 3 miles through the forest. We packed water and snacks, put on our hiking boots, and set off. The trail was well-maintained but narrow, forcing us to walk single file in places. Pine trees towered overhead, their needles carpeting the ground. Every so often we'd pass a wooden marker indicating distance or pointing out some feature of the landscape. A grove of old-growth longleaf pines, a small creek, a rock formation. We'd been walking for maybe 45 minutes when we found the backpack. It was sitting in the middle of the trail, right where the path curved around a large oak tree. A small purple backpack with a unicorn patch sewn onto one pocket. The kind a kid would have. Mara stopped so abruptly, I almost ran into her. "Is that—" she started. "The one from the campsite," I finished. "The daughter's backpack has to be." We stared at it. The backpack looked pristine, like someone had carefully placed it there. No mud, no damage, nothing to suggest it had been sitting out in the elements. Should we pick it up? Mara asked. I didn't want to touch it. I don't know why, but something about the way it sat there, perfectly positioned in the center of the trail, made my skin crawl. We should tell the woman at the office, I said. Come on, let's head back. We turned around, and that's when I noticed something else. There were 2 sets of footprints in the soft dirt beside the trail. Recent prints, probably from today, going in the same direction we'd been walking, but only 1 set coming back. I mentioned it to Mara, and she frowned. Maybe they turned off somewhere. There's probably side trails. Maybe, I said. We didn't see anyone else on the way back. When we reached the campground, I went to the office to report what we'd found, but it was locked. A handwritten note taped to the door said, "Back at 2 p.m. Forget it, Mara said. Let's just relax. We're supposed to be on vacation. So we tried. We sat by the fire, read our books, played cards. But I kept thinking about that backpack, sitting so perfectly in the middle of the trail, and the footprints, and the dream. That night, Mara made pasta on the camp stove while I tended the fire. The sun set, and the darkness came on fast and complete, pressing in from all sides. The other campers had their lights on, but they might as well have been miles away. We ate, cleaned up, and by 10 we were back in bed. I didn't want to fall asleep. I lay there staring at the RV's ceiling, listening to Mara's breathing, telling myself it was fine. It was just one bad dream. It didn't mean anything. But I knew. Even before I closed my eyes, I knew I'd be back there. And I was, standing in the forest again, in the absolute dark. The same paralyzing fear. The same certainty that something was hunting me. This time, though, I could move. Just barely. I took a step forward, feeling my way through the trees, trying to stay quiet. My foot caught on a root and I stumbled, catching myself against a trunk. The bark was rough and wet under my palm. Behind me, the footsteps started, slow, methodical, following. I tried to run, but the darkness was too complete. I kept crashing into trees, tripping over undergrowth. The footsteps behind me never hurried. They didn't need to. Whatever it was knew I had nowhere to go. I heard it breathing. That same heavy, measured breathing, getting closer with each step. Then I heard something else. Another sound off to my left. More footsteps. Someone else was in the forest with me. "Tyler?" a voice called out. Mara's voice. "Tyler, where are you?" "Mara!" I tried to shout, but it came out as a whisper. "Mara, run, something's—" The breathing was right behind me now, so close. I spun around, and in that moment I saw it. Not clearly, just a shape, darker than the darkness, towering over me. Something that shouldn't exist. It reached for me. I woke up choking on a scream. Mara was sitting up again, her eyes wide, her chest heaving. "You were there," she said. "In the dream. I heard you." My mouth had gone dry. "I heard you too." We got up. Neither of us suggested trying to go back to sleep. We sat at the small dinette table, and in low voices we compared our dreams. Same forest, same darkness, same thing hunting us. But this time, we'd both been there, at the same time, in the same place. We'd heard each other. "This is insane," Mara said. She was trying to keep her voice steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. "We're just feeding off each other. It's stress. We're both exhausted and stressed, and we're having the exact same nightmare 2 nights in a row," I finished. "Mara, you have to admit this is weird." "Weird doesn't mean supernatural," she shot back. "It means we need to go home. This place is obviously not relaxing, and we're just making each other more anxious. Let's pack up tomorrow and drive back. We can get a hotel somewhere nice, actually enjoy the rest of the week." I wanted to agree. Everything she said made sense. But there was a part of me, a part I didn't want to acknowledge, that wondered if leaving would even matter, if the dreams would follow us. We stayed up until dawn, playing cards, watching the sun come up through the RV's windows. When the forest emerged from shadow, looking normal and almost friendly in the morning light, I felt foolish for being so scared. Coffee, Mara said. And then we're packing up. I went outside to start the camp stove. The morning was cool, the air heavy with moisture. Mist clung to the ground between the trees. I set up the stove, filled the kettle, and while I waited for the water to boil, I glanced over at Site 9. Someone was sitting at the picnic table. A girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old, wearing a purple jacket. She sat perfectly still, facing the forest, her back to me. I froze. "Hey," I called out. "Are you okay?" She didn't move, didn't turn around, just sat there, motionless. I took a step toward her. "Hey kid, are you—" She turned her head. The movement was wrong, too smooth, too fast. Her head swiveled a full 180 degrees without her body moving, and she looked right at me. Her eyes were black, not dark brown, black. Like someone had replaced her irises with polished stones. She smiled. It was the widest smile I'd ever seen, stretching her face in a way that didn't look human. Then she stood up and walked into the forest. Not fast, not slow, just walked, her movements jerky and puppet-like, until the trees swallowed her. I stood there unable to move, unable to process what I'd just seen. The kettle started whistling. Mara came out. "Coffee ready?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed at Site 9. "What?" she asked, looking. "What's wrong?" The picnic table was empty. The forest was still. There was no sign anyone had been there. "Tyler, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" I told her what I'd seen. She listened without interrupting, her face growing paler with each word. "We're leaving," she said when I finished. "Right now. Fuck the rest of the week, fuck relaxing, we're getting out of here." I didn't argue. We spent the next 2 hours breaking camp, disconnecting the utilities, packing everything into the RV. I kept glancing at the forest, expecting to see that girl again, but there was nothing, just trees and shadows. We were almost done when the woman from the office appeared, driving a golf cart up the access road. "Morning," she called out, way too cheerful. "How's everything going?" "We're checking out early," Mara said. Her voice was tight. Something came up. The woman's smile faltered. "Oh, that's a shame. Was there a problem with the site?" "No," I said quickly. "Just a change of plans." She nodded, but I could see her studying us, taking in Mara's pale face, my nervous energy. "Did you happen to find anything on the trails yesterday? A backpack, maybe?" "We saw one," I said, "about a mile out on the main loop. We were going to tell you, but the office was closed." She frowned. "I checked that trail yesterday afternoon. There was nothing there." "Well, it was definitely there," Mara said. "Purple backpack, unicorn patch." The woman's expression shifted into something I couldn't read. Not quite fear, but close. "You folks didn't open it, did you?" "No," I said. "Why?" She didn't answer, just looked past us at the empty Site 9, then back at the forest. "That family," she said slowly, "the ones who checked out early. They reported some unusual experiences, said their daughter was having nightmares, said they kept seeing things in the woods." "What kind of things?" Mara asked. "I don't know. They wouldn't say exactly. But when they left, the daughter wouldn't stop crying. The mother looked like she hadn't slept in days." She paused. "You folks have any trouble sleeping?" I felt Mara's hand find mine and squeeze. "We're fine," I lied. "But we really do need to get going." "Sure," the woman said, though she didn't move. "Just a word of advice? If you have dreams while you're here, don't go looking for what's in them. Sometimes things that live in dreams don't like being found." She drove off before we could respond. We finished packing in silence. By noon, we were ready to leave. I climbed into the driver's seat, Mara in the passenger seat beside me, and I turned the key. Nothing happened. I tried again. The engine cranked but wouldn't catch. On the third try, it didn't even crank, just a clicking sound. "You're fucking kidding me," Mara said. "I wasn't a mechanic. but I knew enough to check the basics. I popped the hood, looked at the battery connections, checked the fuses. Everything looked fine. The RV had been running perfectly yesterday. I tried the engine again. Nothing. "We'll call a tow truck," Mara said, pulling out her phone. Then she remembered. "Shit, no signal." "The office has a phone," I said. "I'll go ask to use it." But when I reached the office, it was locked again. No note this time. I knocked, waited, knocked louder. Nothing. I walked around the building, looking in the windows. The place was empty, not just empty of people, empty like no one had been there in years. Dust on the desk, cobwebs in the corners. The clipboard I'd seen the woman using was nowhere in sight. I felt something cold settle into my stomach. When I got back to our site, I found Mara sitting in one of the camp chairs staring at her phone. "It's working," she said quietly. "The phone, it's working now." I checked mine. Full signal. 4 bars of LTE. "Call someone," I said. "AAA, a tow truck, anyone." She dialed. I watched her face as she waited. Then, "Hi, yes, I need a tow truck. We're at Longleaf Vista RV Park in Kisatchie Forest." "What?" "No, that's the name. Longleaf Vista. I'm looking at the sign right now." She listened for a long moment, her face growing paler. "Are you sure? Can you check again?" Another pause. Okay. Thank you." She hung up. "There's no RV park called Longleaf Vista," she said. "Not in Kisatchie, not anywhere in Louisiana. The woman couldn't find it in any database." We stared at each other. "That's impossible," I said. "We're here. We drove here. We checked in. We paid for the site." "I know," Mara whispered. I looked at our RV, at the electric hookup, at the water connection. All of it real. All of it solid. But the woman on the phone had been certain. No such place existed. "What do we do?" Mara asked. Before I could answer, we heard a sound. A child's voice, singing, coming from the forest behind Site 9. The song had no words, just a melody, high and clear and utterly wrong. Mara stood up. "We need to get out of here, now. We'll walk to the highway if we have to." "It's miles," I said. "I don't care." We started grabbing essentials, water bottles, phones, our wallets. I was throwing things into a backpack when Mara grabbed my arm. "Tyler," she said. "Look." I looked where she was pointing. At the edge of the forest, barely visible between the trees, were people. At least a dozen of them standing perfectly still watching us. One of them was the girl in the purple jacket. Another was a woman who looked just like the one from the office. The rest were strangers. Men, women, children. All standing motionless, all staring. "Get in the RV," I said. "Lock the doors." We scrambled inside, slammed the door, locked it. Through the window I could see them. They hadn't moved. Just standing there, watching. "Try the engine again," Mara said. I did. Same clicking. Dead. "We'll wait until dark," I said. "Then we'll make a run for it through the trees, try to stay off the access road. It's only a few miles to the highway." "In the dark?" Mara's voice was shrill. "Are you insane? You want to walk past them right now?" She didn't have an answer for that. We spent the afternoon barricaded in the RV watching the people in the forest. They never moved, never spoke, just stood there. And as the hours passed, more appeared. By sunset, there must have been 30 or 40 of them, forming a semicircle around our site. "This isn't real," Mara kept saying. "This can't be real." But it was. I could see them as clearly as I could see her. When night fell, they were still there. And then the singing started again. That wordless melody coming from dozens of throats at once, creating a harmony that made my teeth ache. "We have to sleep," I said. "We need rest if we're going to make it to the highway." "I'm not sleeping," Mara said. "Are you crazy? After the dreams?" "We don't have a choice. We're exhausted. We'll take turns. One of us sleeps, one keeps watch." She agreed reluctantly. She took the first watch, sitting at the dinette with a flashlight while I lay in the back bed. I didn't think I'd be able to sleep, not with those people out there, not with that singing, but exhaustion pulled me under within minutes. And I was in the forest again. But this time was different. This time I wasn't alone. Mara was there, right beside me, and I could see her in a faint gray light that seemed to come from nowhere. "This is a dream," she said. "We're dreaming. Both of us." "I know," I said. The footsteps started. Behind us, in front of us, all around us. Dozens of them, walking through the trees, getting closer. "Run," I said. We ran. The forest was different now. The trees were taller, their trunks impossibly wide. The ground beneath our feet felt spongy, organic. We ran until our lungs burned, but the footsteps kept pace, always just behind us, never falling behind, never catching up. Then we burst into a clearing, and in the center of it was the picnic table from Site 9. The girl in the purple jacket sat there, smiling her too wide smile. "You stayed," she said. Her voice was high and sweet and made my skin crawl. "Everyone always stays. Nobody ever leaves." "What do you want?" Mara gasped. "To play," the girl said. "Don't you want to play?" The footsteps had stopped. Around the edge of the clearing, shapes moved in the darkness. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. All watching us. "This is our place," the girl said. "You came here. You slept here. Now you're part of it." "We're leaving," I said. "We're getting out." The girl's smile grew wider. "You can try. But you'll dream again. And every time you dream, you'll come back here. And one day you won't wake up." She stood and walked toward us. As she got closer, I could see that her movements were wrong, like something was wearing her body like a costume. "Unless," she said, stopping just a few feet away, "you bring someone else, someone new, to take your place." "No," Mara said. "Then you'll stay forever," the girl said. She reached out a hand. "Come on, let me show you." I grabbed Mara's hand. "Wake up, Mara, wake up." The girl lunged forward and I felt her fingers brush my arm. I woke up screaming. Mara was beside me, also awake, also screaming. We clutched each other in the dark RV, and outside, the singing had stopped. I looked out the window. The people in the forest were gone. We sat there until dawn, not speaking, not sleeping. When the sun rose, I tried the RV's engine one more time. It started immediately. "Go," Mara whispered. "Just go." I didn't need to be told twice. I threw the RV into gear and drove, not bothering to disconnect the utilities, not caring about anything except getting away. The access road seemed longer than I remembered, twisting and turning through the trees. But eventually we reached the highway. We drove for hours without stopping. Mara watched the GPS on her phone, tracking our progress. Kisatchie Forest fell behind us. We crossed into Texas. By evening, we were back in Houston. We returned the RV to her uncle's place and took a Uber home. Neither of us talked about what had happened. What was there to say? That night, in our own bed, in our own apartment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe we'd escaped. But when I closed my eyes, I was back in the forest. And Mara was there with me. And the footsteps were closer than ever before. It's been 3 months now. We've tried everything. Sleeping pills, therapy, sleep studies. Nothing works. Every night, as soon as we fall asleep, we're back there. In that forest. Being hunted. We don't sleep at the same time anymore. One of us stays awake watching the other, ready to wake them if they start screaming. But we can't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, we'll both be asleep at the same time. And the thing is, the dreams are getting longer. The first night back, we were only there for a few minutes. The next night, longer. Now we spend hours in that place, running, hiding, feeling that thing get closer and closer with every passing second. Last week, Mara didn't wake up right away. I had to shake her for a full minute before her eyes opened. When she looked at me, there was a moment, just a split second, where I didn't recognize her, where her eyes were black, and her smile was too wide. Then she blinked, and she was Mara again, terrified and exhausted. We're going to lose, I think. Eventually, we're going to spend too long in that place, and one night we won't come back. Or we'll take the girl's offer. Find someone else. Bring them to that place, to that campground that doesn't exist, and let them take our place. The thought makes me sick. But I can feel Mara thinking about it too. I can see it in her eyes when she looks at me. The calculation. How much would she sacrifice to be free? How much would I? Last night, she started researching RV rentals, looking at camping spots in Louisiana. She thinks I don't know, but I found the browser history. I think she wants to bring her coworker Rachel, the one who's always complaining about stress, who's always talking about needing a vacation. Mara's been texting her, asking if she'd want to do a camping trip sometime. I should stop her. I know I should. But I'm so tired. And every time I close my eyes, I'm back there. And it's getting harder to remember why I shouldn't do whatever it takes to escape. The girl said we could leave if we brought someone new. I'm starting to think she was telling the truth. God help me. I'm starting to think it might be worth it. Tonight, Mara has a dinner planned with Rachel. She's going to ask her in person. And I know Rachel will say yes, because Rachel always wants what other people have. And right now, what we're offering is exactly what she thinks she needs. I should warn her. I should tell her what's waiting in those woods. But I won't. Because I want to sleep again. I want to close my eyes without fear. I want to wake up in the morning without hearing those footsteps echoing in my memory. And if that makes me a monster, then maybe the forest already won. Maybe we never really left at all. The dinner is tomorrow night. Mara's planned everything. The restaurant, the conversation, the casual invitation. You should come camping with us, she'll say. There's this beautiful spot in Louisiana. So peaceful. So quiet. And Rachel will say yes. I know she will. Because everyone always says yes, and when she does, we'll be free. We'll bring her to that place, to that campground that exists and doesn't exist, and we'll watch as she checks in, as she sets up her camp, as she falls asleep for the first time, and then we'll leave. We'll drive away while the singing starts and the people gather in the forest. We'll drive away while she has her first dream, her first hunt, her first glimpse of what's waiting in the darkness. We'll leave her there, just like the family before us left their daughter, just like someone before them left someone else. The forest is always hungry. It's always hunting, and it needs new dreamers to feed on, new minds to trap in those endless dark spaces between sleep and waking. I tell myself I don't have a choice. I tell myself it's survival. I tell myself that Rachel would do the same thing if she were in my position. But I know the truth. The truth is that something changed in those woods, something in me, something in Mara. We're not the same people who drove into that campground. We're harder now, colder, capable of things we never would have considered before. Maybe that's the real horror. Not the forest, not the dreams, not the thing that hunts us, but what we're willing to do to escape it, what we're willing to become. Tomorrow night, Rachel will say yes, and the night after that, we'll drive back to Louisiana, back to that access road that appears on no maps, back to that campground that shouldn't exist. We'll watch her check in, we'll help her set up, we'll share a fire, toast marshmallows, pretend everything is normal, and when night falls and she goes to sleep, we'll be in the RV packed and ready. We'll wait until we hear the singing start, until we see the shapes gathering in the trees. We'll wait until we know she's there in the forest, in the dream, facing what we've faced every night for 3 months. And then we'll start the engine and drive away. I don't know if it will work. The girl might have been lying. This might all be for nothing, but I have to try. We both do. Because the alternative is staying there forever, running through those dark woods, feeling that thing get closer with every dream, until one night we don't wake up at all. So tomorrow night I'll sit at that dinner and smile when Rachel agrees to come camping. I'll help Mara plan the trip. I'll pack the RV and drive back to that place, knowing what we're doing, knowing what we're condemning her to. And I'll tell myself it's worth it. I'll tell myself we don't have a choice. I'll tell myself that everyone has to fight for survival no matter the cost. But late at night, when I'm lying awake watching Mara sleep, Terrified to close my own eyes, I wonder if we're fighting to survive or if we already lost. If maybe the worst thing isn't the forest or the dreams or that thing that hunts us. Maybe the worst thing is what we're willing to do to escape. Maybe the worst thing is already inside us. And maybe that's what the forest wanted all along. Story 4. My name is Olivia Young. At least that's what I've been calling myself for the past 8 years. We pulled into the Pine Ridge RV park just before sunset on a Thursday in late September. The place was nearly empty, just a handful of RVs scattered across the 40-acre property, tucked into the foothills of the Cascade Mountains in southern Oregon. Marcus had found it on some camping app, said it looked quiet. That's what we'd been looking for. Quiet. The registration office was a small wooden building with a hand-painted sign that had seen better days. A woman in her 60s took our information without much interest, handed us a map with our site circled in red pen, and told us the bathrooms were kept locked after 10. She didn't smile once. Cell service? Marcus asked. Spotty, she said. Sometimes you get a bar or two up by the main road. Site 17 was at the far end of the property, backing up against a dense stretch of pine forest. The trees were so thick you couldn't see more than 20 feet into them. Marcus backed the RV into the spot while I checked the hookups. Everything seemed fine. Standard. We'd been living in the RV for 3 months now, working remotely and moving every week or two. It was supposed to be an adventure, a way to disconnect from the routine we'd both felt trapped in. The first night was uneventful. We made dinner, watched a movie on Marcus's laptop, went to bed around 11. The park was silent except for the wind moving through the pines. I've never been great with silence. Growing up in the city, you get used to constant background noise. Traffic, sirens, neighbors. Out here, the quiet felt heavy. I woke up around 3 in the morning. Marcus was snoring softly beside me. I needed to pee but didn't want to walk to the bathrooms in the dark, so I lay there for a while, trying to fall back asleep. That's when I heard it. A whisper, coming from outside. At first I thought it was just the wind, but then I heard it again, clearer this time. It sounded like a voice, soft and distant, saying something I couldn't quite make out. I sat up, listening. Marcus didn't stir. The whisper came again. This time I could almost make out a word, or a name. Catherine. I went cold. Just sat there in the dark, holding my breath. The name came again, a little louder, a little more insistent. Catherine. That's not my name. It hasn't been my name for 8 years. I legally changed it after everything that happened, after I left Connecticut and moved across the country. Nobody here knows that name. Marcus doesn't know that name. I got up and moved to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to look out. The campground was dark. A single security light near the office cast long shadows across the empty sites. I couldn't see anyone. The whisper had stopped. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, just watching. Nothing moved. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd been dreaming, or maybe half asleep and confused. I went back to bed but didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, Marcus asked if I was okay. I looked tired, he said. I told him I'd slept fine. We made breakfast and then Marcus wanted to hike one of the trails marked on the park map. I didn't feel like going but didn't want to explain why, so I said yes. The trail was easy, mostly flat, winding through the pines. We passed another couple about 20 minutes in. They nodded but didn't stop to chat. After about an hour, we reached a small clearing with a picnic table. Marcus wanted to rest, so we sat down. That's when I heard it again. Catherine. I stood up fast enough that Marcus looked at me funny. What's wrong? He asked. Did you hear that? Hear what? The whisper came again, from somewhere in the trees to our left. Marcus was looking at me like I was being weird. He clearly hadn't heard anything. Nothing, I said. I thought I heard someone calling. We sat there for a few more minutes, then headed back. I kept listening the whole way, but the whisper didn't come again. By the time we got back to the RV, I'd almost convinced myself I was being paranoid. Stress does strange things to your brain. We'd been on the road for months, working long hours in a cramped space. It made sense that I might be hearing things. But that night, it happened again. 3 a.m, same time as before. The whisper, coming from outside, calling that name. This time I got up immediately and went to the door. I opened it as quietly as I could and stepped out onto the metal steps. The campground was dark and still. The security light flickered slightly. I could hear Marcus's snoring from inside. And then I heard it again, clearer now that I was outside. Catherine. Catherine. It was coming from the tree line behind our site. A woman's voice, I thought, though it was hard to tell. I stood there on the steps in my pajamas and bare feet, staring at the dark wall of pines. The temperature had dropped, and I could see my breath. "Who's there?" I called out, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't wake Marcus. The whispering stopped. Silence. Then, after maybe 30 seconds, it started again. But this time it wasn't just saying the name. This time it was saying something else. Something that made my skin crawl. Catherine Foster, born December 12, 1987, Bridgeport, Connecticut. My birth date, my birth city, my real name. I went back inside and locked the door. My hands were shaking. I sat on the edge of the bed trying to think. Marcus rolled over but didn't wake up. I wanted to shake him awake, tell him what was happening, but what would I say? That someone was outside whispering my old name? How would I explain that I'd never told him about Catherine? I didn't sleep at all that night. Just sat there in the dark, listening. The whispering continued on and off until just before dawn, always from the same spot in the trees, always saying my name and my birth information. Around 5:30, it stopped. When Marcus woke up at 7, I was sitting at the small dining table with a cup of coffee staring at nothing. "Jesus, Liv, you look awful," he said. "Are you sick?" "Didn't sleep well," I said. "Want to move to a different site? Maybe the mattress is bad or something." I almost said yes. Almost suggested we pack up and leave entirely. But something stopped me. If I ran now, would it follow? And how would I explain it to Marcus without telling him everything? "No, it's fine," I said. "Just need more coffee." We spent the day around the RV. Marcus worked on his laptop while I tried to work on mine, but I couldn't concentrate. Every sound made me jump. Around 2 in the afternoon, I walked up to the office to see if the woman from check-in was there. She was, sitting behind the desk reading a paperback. "Hi," I said. "I just wanted to ask, have there been any complaints about noise at night? Like people wandering around the campsites?" She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Noise? No. Why?" "I just thought I heard someone walking around last night." "Well, there's only 4 other groups here right now. Everyone keeps to themselves. You're way down at 17, right? Nobody near you." "Right. Okay, thanks." I left before she could ask anything else. On the walk back, I passed another RV parked at Site 23. An older man was sitting in a lawn chair outside. He waved. I waved back, but kept walking. When I glanced back, he was still watching me. That night, I tried to stay awake. I made an excuse to Marcus about wanting to finish some work, so I sat at the table with my laptop while he went to bed around 11. I kept the curtains open so I could watch the tree line. I had my phone ready to record if the whispering started again. At 3 a.m, right on schedule, it began. "Catherine." I grabbed my phone and started recording, pointing it toward the window. The voice continued saying my full name, my birth date, my birth city. Then it said something new. "You left her behind. You left her in the hospital." My hands went numb. The phone almost slipped from my grip. "You didn't even stay for the funeral." I stopped the recording, went to play it back. There was nothing, just static and the faint sound of wind. The whisper didn't show up on the recording at all. I tried again, same result. The voice was clear as day when I listened in real time. But the moment I played back the recording, it was gone. Marcus appeared in the doorway of the bedroom, rubbing his eyes. "Liv, what are you doing?" "Nothing. Sorry. Go back to bed." "Are you recording something?" "I thought I heard an animal outside. Wanted to see if I could get it on video." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're acting weird. What's going on?" "I'm fine. Just restless." He came over and sat down across from me. "Talk to me. What's really going on?" I wanted to tell him. Wanted to explain everything. But how do you tell someone you've been lying about who you are? How do you explain that you changed your name and erased your past because of something so terrible you can't even think about it without feeling like you're drowning? "I've just been stressed," I said. "The work stuff. Living in the RV. It's getting to me." "Then let's take a break. We can stay here for a while, not worry about moving every week." "No," I said too quickly. I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" I don't like this place." He looked around. "It's fine, it's quiet. Exactly what we said we wanted. Can we leave tomorrow? Please?" He studied my face. "Something happened." "What happened?" "Nothing happened, I just want to leave." "Olivia?" "Please, Marcus, I don't want to talk about it. Can we just leave tomorrow?" He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. Yeah. We can leave tomorrow." I felt a wave of relief. We'd pack up first thing in the morning and drive somewhere else. Somewhere far from here. The whispering would stop. It had to. But when I went to bed that night, I had a dream. At least, I think it was a dream. I was standing in the forest behind our site. It was dark, but I could see perfectly, like there was some kind of ambient light coming from nowhere. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than I remembered, and standing between them, maybe 20 feet away, was a woman. She was wearing a hospital gown. Her hair was thin and patchy, like she'd been sick. She looked exactly like my sister, Emily. She smiled at me. "Hey, Catherine." I tried to speak but couldn't. "You left me," she said. Her voice was gentle, not accusatory. That somehow made it worse. "You left while I was still alive. You didn't even say goodbye." "I couldn't," I managed to say. "I couldn't watch you die." "So you watched me disappear instead. You watched me get erased, changed your name, moved away, never talked about me again like I never existed. That's not true, isn't it?" She took a step closer. Her feet were bare, and they made no sound on the forest floor. "You haven't said my name out loud in 8 years, not once. You deleted every photo. You cut off our parents. You made me into a ghost." "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry." She was right in front of me now. Close enough that I could see her face clearly. She didn't look angry. She just looked sad and tired. "I forgive you," she said, "but you need to remember me. You need to say my name." "Emily," I whispered. She smiled. Then she reached out and touched my forehead with one finger. I woke up. Marcus was sitting on the edge of the bed, shaking my shoulder. Liv, wake up." I sat up, disoriented. It was still dark outside. "What time is it?" 4:30. "You were talking in your sleep, saying things." "What things?" He looked uncomfortable. "You kept saying Emily, and I'm sorry." "Who's Emily?" I couldn't answer. My mouth had gone completely dry. "Liv, who's Emily?" "Nobody," I said. "Just a dream." "You're lying to me." "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You've been acting strange since we got here. Now you're having nightmares about someone named Emily. Just tell me what's going on." I looked at him, at this person I'd been with for 2 years, who I'd moved into an RV with, who I'd told 1,000 little lies to about who I was and where I came from. And I realized I couldn't keep doing it. Not if the past was going to follow me like this. "Emily was my sister," I said. "She died 8 years ago. Brain cancer. She was 22. Marcus's expression softened. "Oh, Liv, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to talk about it. I still don't. Is that why you don't talk to your family, because of her? Partly. He reached out and took my hand. You should have told me. I would have understood. I know. Is that what's been bothering you? Being out here away from everything, it's bringing up memories. That would have been an easy out. An explanation that made sense, but it wasn't the truth. Something else is happening, I said. I've been hearing things. A voice outside, in the middle of the night. It's been calling my old name. Your old name? I changed my name after Emily died. Legally. I was Catherine Foster. Now I'm Olivia Young. He pulled his hand back slightly. I could see the confusion and hurt in his face. You never told me that either. I know, I'm sorry. What else haven't you told me? Nothing, that's it. I just wanted to start over. Become someone who hadn't lost their sister. Someone who didn't have to carry that around. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, What do you mean you've been hearing a voice? I told him everything. The whispering, the name, the information about my birth date and birthplace, the things about Emily, the fact that nothing showed up on recordings, the dream. When I finished, he looked at me like he was trying to figure out if I was having some kind of breakdown. Liv, are you sure you actually heard these things? I mean, you've barely been sleeping. You're stressed. Maybe. I know what I heard, but if it's not showing up on recordings, I know how it sounds, but I'm not imagining it. He rubbed his face with both hands. Okay. Let's say you're actually hearing something. What do you think it is? I don't know. Do you think it's her, Emily? The question hung in the air. I'd been avoiding thinking about that possibility, but now that he'd said it out loud, I couldn't avoid it anymore. Maybe, I said, or maybe I'm losing my mind. You're not losing your mind. Then what's happening? He didn't have an answer for that. We sat there in the pre-dawn darkness, not saying anything. Eventually, he said, We'll pack up after sunrise. Get out of here. Whatever's happening, it's connected to this place. Once we leave, it'll stop. I wanted to believe that, but I had a feeling it wasn't true. We both tried to sleep for another hour or so, but neither of us really did. As soon as there was enough light, we got up and started breaking camp. Marcus handled the hookups while I packed things away inside. We moved quickly, not talking much. I could tell he was still processing everything I'd told him. The lies, the changed name, the dead sister I'd never mentioned. I was bringing a bag of trash to the dumpster near the office when I saw the man from Site 23 again. He was standing next to his RV, drinking coffee, watching me. When I got closer, he called out, Leaving already? I nodded. Yeah, we've got to get moving. That's too bad. Nice and quiet here. It is. He took a sip of his coffee, still watching me. Your friend okay? My friend? The woman who came by your site last night. She looked upset. I stopped walking. What woman? Didn't get a good look at her. It was dark, but I saw her walk past here around 3 this morning, headed toward your site. She was in some kind of nightgown or something. Figured she was with you. No, I said. There's just me and my boyfriend. He frowned. Huh. Well, I definitely saw someone. Maybe she was from one of the other sites. Maybe. Thanks. I walked back to the RV quickly. Marcus was inside, securing the cabinets. Someone saw a woman near our site last night, I said. Around 3 in the morning. Wearing a nightgown. He stopped what he was doing and looked at me. What? The guy at Site 23. He saw someone. So it wasn't just in your head. No, someone was actually there. Did you tell him we didn't know who it was? Yeah. What did he say? Nothing. He just seemed confused. Marcus went to the window and looked out toward the tree line. So someone's been walking around the campground at night, whispering your old name. Someone who knows things about your past. Who could that be? I don't know. Could someone from your old life have tracked you down? Someone who knew Emily? I cut ties with everyone. My parents, my old friends. Nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows you changed your name? Just the court. It's public record, but you'd have to know to look for it. He turned back to me. This is really freaking me out, Liv. I know. We should call the police. Tell them someone's been harassing you. And say what? That someone's whispering my dead sister's name? They'll think I'm crazy. But if someone saw her, a woman in a nightgown doesn't prove anything. He looked like he wanted to argue but didn't. We finished packing in silence. By the time we were ready to leave, it was almost 9 in the morning. Marcus pulled the RV out of Site 17 and I took one last look at the tree line as we drove away. I didn't see anything, but I felt watched. We drove for about 2 hours heading north on Highway 97. Marcus wanted to get as far from Pine Ridge as possible. We didn't talk much. The silence between us felt different now, heavier, filled with all the things I hadn't told him. Around 11, we pulled into a rest stop to stretch our legs and use the bathroom. I was walking back to the RV when I noticed my phone had a signal. 2 bars. I checked my email, scrolled through some messages, then saw something that made me stop dead. An email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was just my old name, Catherine Foster. I opened it. The message was short. You can't run from me. I'm already there. No signature, no other information. I checked the sender address. It was just a string of random numbers and letters at a generic email domain. I showed Marcus. He read it, his face going pale. Someone's fucking with you, he said. Someone who knows your old name. But who? I don't know. An ex? Someone from your hometown? There's nobody. I made sure of that. What about Emily's friends? Could one of them be doing this? Why would they? It's been 8 years. I don't know, Liv. But someone is clearly targeting you. Someone who knows enough about your past to... He stopped mid-sentence, looking past me. I turned around. There was a woman standing at the edge of the parking lot, maybe 50 feet away. She was wearing a hospital gown and no shoes. Her hair was thin and patchy. She looked exactly like Emily. No, I whispered. Marcus grabbed my arm. Who is that? That's her. That's my sister. That's impossible. The woman, Emily, raised one hand and waved at me. Then she turned and walked toward the tree line at the edge of the rest stop. Wait, I shouted, starting to run after her. Liv, don't! Marcus ran after me, but I was already halfway across the parking lot. Emily disappeared into the trees. I reached the tree line seconds later, crashing through underbrush, calling her name. Marcus was right behind me. Emily! Emily, wait! The forest was dense, filled with Douglas firs and thick ferns. I could barely see more than a few feet ahead. I kept running, branches whipping at my face and arms. Marcus was yelling at me to stop, but I couldn't. I had to reach her, had to know if it was really her. After maybe 30 seconds of running, I burst into a small clearing, and there she was, standing in the center, waiting for me. Up close, she looked even more like Emily. Same face, same height, same scar on her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike when we were kids. But something was wrong. Her eyes were slightly off, the pupils too large, the irises too dark, and she wasn't breathing. Her chest wasn't moving at all. Catherine, she said. Her voice was Emily's voice, but flatter, emotionless. Marcus caught up to me, grabbing my shoulders. Liv, we need to go. Now. You left me, Emily said. You promised you'd stay, and you left. I'm sorry, I said. Tears were streaming down my face. I'm so sorry. I couldn't watch you die. So you let me die alone? No. Mom and Dad were there. They weren't me. I wanted you, and you weren't there. Marcus was pulling on my arm, trying to get me to leave, but I couldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, staring at this thing that looked like my sister. I'm sorry, I said again. I was scared. I was 24 years old and I couldn't handle watching you waste away. I couldn't be the strong one. I should have been, but I wasn't. Emily, or whatever it was, tilted her head slightly. You need to remember me. I do remember you every day. No, you buried me. You changed your name. You pretended I never existed. That's not true. Say my name. Emily. Say my full name. Emily Catherine Foster. Again. Emily Catherine Foster. She smiled. It was a terrible smile, too wide, showing too many teeth. Good. Don't forget again. Then she opened her mouth impossibly wide, and something black and liquid poured out. It hit the ground and spread like oil, moving toward us. Marcus yanked me backwards hard and we both fell. He scrambled to his feet, pulling me up, and we ran back the way we'd come. Behind us, I could hear Emily laughing. It didn't sound like her anymore. It sounded like multiple voices layered over each other, all laughing at once. We made it back to the RV, jumped inside, and Marcus locked all the doors. He started the engine with shaking hands and pulled out of the rest stop so fast the RV fishtailed slightly. I was sitting in the passenger seat crying, unable to speak. We drove for another hour before Marcus finally pulled over at a gas station. He turned off the engine and just sat there for a moment, both hands gripping the wheel. "What the fuck was that?" he said. "I don't know. That wasn't your sister. That was... I don't know what that was." "I know. This isn't about grief or stress or any of that. Something is actually happening." "I know." He turned to look at me. "What do we do?" "I don't know." We sat in the parking lot of that gas station for almost 2 hours trying to figure out what to do next. Marcus wanted to go to the police, but I convinced him it wouldn't help. What would we tell them? That we saw a ghost? That something was following us? They'd think we were on drugs or having a psychotic break. In the end, we decided to just keep driving, get as far away as possible. Maybe whatever it was couldn't follow us beyond a certain distance. Maybe it was tied to Pine Ridge or to Oregon or to something else we didn't understand. But as we pulled back onto the highway, I checked my phone again. Another email. Same sender. "You can't outrun memory." I showed it to Marcus. He read it and threw my phone onto the dashboard. "Fuck this," he said. "We're going to a hotel. A nice one. In a city. With lots of people around. We'll figure out what to do from there." We drove to Portland, checked into a hotel downtown. Marcus got us a room on the 8th floor, as far from ground level as possible. He double-locked the door and put the chain on. I took a shower, trying to wash off the feeling of the forest, the image of Emily standing in that clearing. When I came out, Marcus had ordered room service. Neither of us had eaten all day. We picked at the food in silence, both of us jumping at every small sound. The elevator dinging in the hallway, people talking as they passed our room, the rattle of the air conditioning. Around 10 that night, Marcus fell asleep in one of the beds. He'd been up most of the night before, and exhaustion finally caught up with him. I lay in the other bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to close my eyes. At 3 in the morning, I heard it again. The whisper. "Catherine." It was coming from the bathroom. I got up slowly, my heart pounding, walked to the bathroom door. It was closed, but I could see light coming from underneath. I hadn't left the light on. I opened the door. Emily was standing in front of the mirror. Her back was to me, but I could see her reflection. She was looking at me through the glass. "You're not her," I said. "You're not my sister." She turned around. "No, I'm not." "Then what are you?" "I'm what she left behind. The grief you wouldn't feel. The guilt you wouldn't carry. I'm every memory you tried to bury. I'm everything you wouldn't let yourself be." "That doesn't make sense." "You made me. When you changed your name, when you cut off your family, when you erased 8 years of your life, you didn't get rid of any of it, you just pushed it away. And it's been growing, getting stronger, until it became strong enough to come find you." I backed up, but there was nowhere to go. The bathroom was small. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to remember. I want you to feel everything you've been avoiding. I want you to say her name and mean it." to let yourself grieve instead of running. I can't. You have to, or I'll make you. She stepped toward me, reaching out. I tried to back away, but my legs wouldn't move. She placed both hands on the sides of my face, and suddenly I was somewhere else. I was in the hospital, Emily's hospital room. She was in the bed, so thin I could see every bone, her skin gray and waxy. Machines beeped around her. Our mother sat in a chair beside the bed, holding Emily's hand. Our father stood at the window, staring out at nothing. And I was there, standing in the doorway. I remembered this day. It was 3 days before Emily died. The last time I saw her alive. In the memory, I took one look at her, at how small and broken she'd become, and I turned around and left. I walked down the hospital corridor, got in my car, and drove home. I didn't go back. When my mother called 3 days later to tell me Emily was gone, I didn't go to the funeral. I told them I was too sick, but I wasn't. I just couldn't face it. The vision shifted. Now I was standing in my apartment, the one I'd lived in back then. I was packing, throwing clothes into boxes, books into bags. I pulled documents from a filing cabinet, my birth certificate, my social security card. I went online and started the process to legally change my name. I watched myself erase Catherine Foster, watched myself become Olivia Young, watched myself move across the country, block my parents' numbers, delete my social media accounts, watched myself kill the person I'd been so I wouldn't have to remember who I'd lost. When the vision ended, I was back in the hotel bathroom. Emily, or whatever it was, let go of my face. I collapsed against the wall, sobbing. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry. I was a coward. I should have stayed. I should have been there for her." "Yes, you should have." "What do I do now?" "You remember, you grieve, you say her name. Emily Catherine Foster." Again. Emily Catherine Foster, my sister, who died when she was 22, who I loved more than anyone in the world, who I failed. The thing that looked like Emily smiled. This time it was a kind smile, a sad smile. Okay. Then it vanished. I stood there in the empty bathroom for a long time, just breathing. Eventually I heard Marcus calling my name from the bedroom. I wiped my face and went back out. He was sitting up in bed, groggy. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." "You sure?" "No, but I think I will be." That was 3 weeks ago. We're still in the RV, still moving around. But I'm different now. I called my parents last week. The conversation was short and awkward. 8 years is a long time, but I told them I was sorry. My mother cried. My father didn't say much. They want to see me. I said maybe soon. I changed my email address back. Not my legal name, not yet, but my email. Catherine Foster. It felt strange typing it, but also right. I still hear the whisper sometimes. At night, when things are quiet. But it doesn't scare me anymore. It's just saying her name. Emily. Reminding me not to forget. Marcus asked me yesterday if I thought what happened was real, or if I'd had some kind of breakdown. I told him I didn't know. Maybe it was real. Maybe my brain created it as a way to force me to confront what I'd been running from. Does it matter? The grief is real. The guilt is real. The love I had for my sister is real. That's what I'm left with. Last night I had a dream. Emily was sitting across from me at a kitchen table I didn't recognize. She looked healthy, the way she'd looked before she got sick. She smiled. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" "For finally letting yourself feel this. It hurts. I know. But that's how you know it meant something." When I woke up, Marcus was already making coffee. I got up and joined him. We didn't talk about it. We haven't really talked about any of it since Portland. But he takes my hand sometimes when we're driving or sitting outside in the evening, and that helps. I don't know if the thing in the forest was my sister's ghost or something else entirely. I don't know if I'll ever know. But I understand what it wanted from me. To remember, to grieve, to stop running from the parts of myself I'd tried to bury. I'm trying. It's hard. Some days are worse than others, but I'm trying. And I say her name every day now. Emily Catherine Foster, my sister, who I loved, who I lost, who I'll never forget again. Story 5. My name is Ava Harris. What happened at Ocala National Forest last September isn't something I talk about anymore. Not because people don't believe me, though they don't, but because explaining it means revisiting details I've spent months trying to forget. But I'm writing this down now because I think someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand what that place does to people. My boyfriend Marcus and I had been planning the trip for 3 months. He'd just finished a brutal project at his architecture firm, and I'd burned through my vacation days dealing with my mother's estate after she passed in July. We needed to get away. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we could just exist without obligations or grief, or the constant buzz of the city. Marcus found the RV rental online, a 2019 Winnebago, barely used, listed by a guy in Jacksonville who seemed eager to rent it out cheap. Perfect condition, the listing said. Take it anywhere. We paid for a week, loaded up our supplies, and drove down to Ocala National Forest on a Thursday afternoon in mid-September. The forest was massive, over 600 square miles of pine and scrub oak, with dozens of camping areas scattered throughout. We'd reserved a spot at a smaller site off Highway 19, one of those places that barely shows up on Google Maps. The kind of campground that doesn't have Wi-Fi or a visitor center, just dirt roads and numbered posts marking each site. We arrived around 4 p.m. The sun was still high, but the air had that early autumn weight to it, humid and thick. There were maybe 6 or 7 other RVs scattered throughout the campground, all parked at a respectful distance from each other. The kind of place where people came to be left alone. This is perfect, Marcus said as he backed the RV into our spot. Site 14, tucked against a line of slash pines. No one around, just us in the trees. I helped him level the RV and hook up the water. We'd brought groceries for the week. Nothing fancy, just basics. Pasta, canned soup, bread, peanut butter. I wasn't much of a cook, and Marcus could barely boil water without setting off a smoke alarm. The plan was to keep things simple. That first night was fine. We made spaghetti, drank wine from plastic cups, and talked about nothing important. Marcus wanted to hike the next day, explore some of the trails deeper in the forest. I wanted to just sit and read. We compromised. A short hike in the morning, then back to the RV for the afternoon. I slept well that night, better than I had in weeks. The next morning we set out around 9 a.m. Marcus had downloaded a trail map to his phone, one of those apps that worked offline. The closest trail was about 2 miles east, a loop that supposedly took you past a creek and through some old-growth pines. Easy, 3 or 4 hours, round trip. We drove down a narrow dirt road until we found the trailhead. There was no marker, just a gap in the trees and a path that looked like it hadn't been used in months. Marcus checked his phone. "This is it," he said. 3.2 miles. Should loop us back here. The trail was overgrown in places, but not impassable. We walked single file, Marcus in front with his phone out, me following with a water bottle and a backpack. The forest was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just empty. No birds, no insects, just the sound of our footsteps on dirt and pine needles. About a mile in, Marcus stopped. "You hear that?" I listened. Nothing. Hear what? I don't know, like humming or maybe a generator. I didn't hear anything. We stood there for a minute and then Marcus shook his head. "Never mind. Probably just my ears." We kept walking. It was another half hour before we saw the church. It wasn't on the map. Marcus checked 3 times, zooming in and out, but there was nothing marked in that area except trees. But there it was, sitting in a clearing about 50 yards off the trail. A small wooden structure, white paint peeling with a crooked steeple and boarded-up windows. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades. "You want to check it out?" Marcus asked. I didn't particularly. Something about it felt wrong. Not scary exactly, just off, like it didn't belong there. "Sure," I said. We left the trail and walked through the underbrush toward the church. Up close, it was even more decrepit than it had looked from a distance. The front steps were rotted through in places, and the door hung crooked on its hinges. Someone had spray-painted "No Entry" across the wood in faded red letters, but the door wasn't locked. Marcus pushed it open. The inside was dark. Not dim, dark. The kind of darkness that doesn't make sense in the middle of the day. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight, but the beam seemed to get swallowed up after a few feet. The church was small, maybe 20 feet by 30, with rows of broken pews and a pulpit at the far end. The floor was covered in debris, rotted hymnals, broken glass, pieces of the ceiling that had caved in, and the shadows. That's the part I keep coming back to. The shadows didn't move. I know how that sounds. Shadows don't move unless light moves, unless something blocks the light. But these shadows, there were patches of darkness along the walls, in the corners, under the pews, and they were perfectly still. Not still like they were waiting for something to move. Still like they were fixed. Like they'd been painted onto the surfaces. Marcus walked further inside, and his shadow stretched out behind him, normal and shifting. But the shadows in the corners, the ones already there, didn't change, didn't react. I stood in the doorway and watched as he crossed in front of one of them, and the shadow didn't move. It should have. Light from my phone, light from the open door, it should have shifted, distorted, something. But it stayed exactly where it was. "Marcus." "Yeah? Do you see that? The shadows?" He turned and looked at me. "What about them?" "They're not moving." He looked around, then back at me. "Ava, it's dark in here. Of course there are shadows." "No, I mean..." I stepped inside and pointed at the corner near the pulpit. "Look, when I move my light, they don't change." Marcus walked over and waved his hand in front of the shadow. Nothing. It stayed where it was, black and motionless. "Huh," he said. "That's weird. Let's go. It's probably just the way the light's coming in. Or maybe the walls are painted darker in those spots. Marcus, let's go." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. We left the church and walked back to the trail without saying much. I kept glancing over my shoulder, but the church just sat there, silent and empty. We finished the hike and got back to the RV around 2 p.m. Neither of us mentioned the church again that day. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. I woke up around 1 a.m. and found him sitting outside in a folding chair, staring at his phone. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just restless." "You want to come back to bed?" "In a bit." I went back inside and eventually fell asleep. When I woke up again at 7 a.m., Marcus was already up making coffee in the little kitchenette. "How long have you been awake?" "Since 5, maybe." "I don't know. I couldn't sleep." He looked tired. Not just tired, drained. His eyes were red, and there were dark circles under them like he hadn't slept in days. "Did you sleep at all?" "A little. I had weird dreams." "About what?" He poured coffee into a mug and handed it to me. "I don't remember. Just weird. We spent that day around the campground. Marcus tried to nap in the afternoon but said he couldn't. He kept checking his phone, scrolling through nothing, just staring at the screen. I asked him what he was looking for, and he said he didn't know. By evening, I was starting to worry. He barely ate dinner, just picked at a bowl of soup and then pushed it away. When I asked if he was feeling okay, he said he was fine. But he didn't look fine. He looked absent, like part of him was somewhere else. That night, I woke up to find him gone again. I checked the time. 2:47 a.m. I got up and went outside, expecting to find him in the chair, but he wasn't there. The campground was dark and quiet. I called his name softly, not wanting to wake the other campers, but there was no answer. I went back inside and grabbed a flashlight, then walked around the RV. Nothing. I checked the bathroom building 100 yards away. Empty. I walked down the dirt road toward the other campsites, but everything was dark and still. I was about to go back and get my phone to call him when I saw movement near the tree line. Marcus, walking slowly toward me, his hands in his pockets. "Where were you?" I asked. "Just walking." "It's almost 3 a.m. I know, I couldn't sleep." "Marcus, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He stopped a few feet away and looked at me. In the beam of the flashlight, his face looked strange. Not different exactly, but flat. Like a photograph. His expression didn't match his eyes. "Nothing's going on," he said. "I just needed some air." "You've been acting weird since yesterday, since we went to that church." "I'm fine, Ava." "You're not fine. You look exhausted. You're barely eating. You're wandering around in the middle of the night." I said I'm fine. His voice was sharp, not loud, but hard. I'd heard Marcus frustrated before, stressed before, but never like this. Cold. "Okay," I said quietly. "Let's just go back to bed." We walked back to the RV together. Marcus climbed into bed without another word, and I lay there next to him, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. The next day, Marcus wanted to go back to the church. "Why?" I asked. "I don't know. I just keep thinking about it." "Marcus, there's nothing there. It's just an old building." "Then why are you so afraid of it?" "I'm not afraid. I just don't see the point." Humor me. I didn't want to go. Every instinct I had told me to stay away from that place. But Marcus was insistent, and I was worried about him. Maybe if we went back and it was just a normal abandoned church, he'd let it go. Maybe he'd snap out of whatever this was. We drove to the trailhead and hiked in. It took us less time this time. Marcus walked faster, barely pausing to check his phone. When we reached the clearing, the church looked exactly the same. Peeling paint, crooked steeple, boarded windows. Marcus walked straight to the door and pushed it open. I followed reluctantly. Inside, the shadows were still there, still motionless. Marcus walked to the center of the room and stood there, looking around. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "Feel what?" "The quiet." The church was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that presses against your ears, that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. I could hear Marcus breathing, slow and steady. I could hear my own footsteps on the debris-covered floor. "Marcus, let's go." He didn't move, just stood there staring at the pulpit. "There's something here," he said. "There's nothing here. It's just an old church." "No, there's something. I can feel it." He walked toward the pulpit, stepping over broken pews and piles of rotted wood. I stayed near the door, watching. He stopped at the front of the room and looked down at something on the floor. I couldn't see what it was from where I stood. "Ava, come here." "What is it?" "Just come here." I didn't want to, but I walked toward him, carefully stepping over the debris. When I reached the pulpit, I saw what he was looking at. A hole in the floor, about 2 feet across, dark and deep. It looked like something had broken through from below, or maybe the floor had just rotted away. I couldn't see the bottom. "What do you think is down there?" Marcus asked. "I don't know, and I don't care. Let's go." He crouched down next to the hole and shone his phone light into it. The beam disappeared into the darkness, swallowed up just like it had been when we first entered the church. "Marcus, please, let's just go." He stood up slowly, still staring into the hole. When he looked at me, his eyes were different. Not the color, not the shape. Just different. Like they were looking at me from far away. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." We left the church and hiked back to the RV. Marcus didn't say a word the entire way. That night, he didn't come to bed at all. I found him sitting outside again around midnight, staring at the trees. I asked if he wanted to come inside, and he said he'd be there in a minute. I woke up at 4 a.m. and he was still outside. Same position, same blank expression. The next morning, I told him we needed to leave. "Leave?" We have 3 more days. I don't care. Something's wrong. You're not sleeping, you're not eating, and you keep going back to that church. We need to go home. There's nothing wrong with me. Marcus, look at yourself. You look like you haven't slept in a week. I feel fine. You're not fine, He stood up abruptly, cutting me off. I'm going for a walk. Marcus. But he was already leaving, walking toward the tree line without looking back. I watched him disappear into the forest, and then I went back inside the RV and sat on the bed, trying not to cry. He was gone for 5 hours. When he came back, it was almost 3 p.m. He walked into the RV like nothing had happened, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and sat down at the small table. Where were you? I asked. Walking. For 5 hours? I guess. Marcus, what is happening to you? He looked at me, and for a moment, just a moment, his expression flickered, something behind his eyes, something afraid. But then it was gone and his face went blank again. Nothing's happening to me, he said. You're overreacting. I'm overreacting? You've been acting like a different person for 3 days. You don't sleep. You barely talk to me. You keep going to that fucking church. Don't curse. I stared at him. In the 7 years we'd been together, Marcus had never cared about cursing. He swore constantly. It was one of the things his mother hated about him. What? Don't curse, it's disrespectful. Disrespectful to who? He didn't answer. Just took another sip of water and looked out the window. I started packing. I didn't tell him what I was doing. I just started gathering our things, clothes, food, toiletries, and putting them in bags. Marcus sat at the table and watched me, saying nothing. When I was done, I turned to him. We're leaving, now. I don't want to leave. I don't care. We're leaving. Ava, I'm fine. You're being paranoid. Get in the car, Marcus. He stared at me for a long moment, then stood up slowly. Fine. We'll leave. We locked up the RV and got into the car. I drove. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window. We made it about 2 miles before the GPS stopped working. I'd entered our home address before we left, and the app had been working fine. But suddenly, the screen went blank. No route, no location. Just a gray screen with a loading icon that spun endlessly. Shit, I muttered. Just follow the road, Marcus said. It'll take us to the highway. I followed the dirt road for another mile, but instead of reaching the main road, we ended up back at the campground. Site 14, our RV. What the hell? You must have taken a wrong turn, Marcus said. There was no turn, it was a straight road. You must have missed it. I turned the car around and drove back the way we came. This time I watched carefully. No turns, no forks, just a straight dirt road leading away from the campground. But 5 minutes later, we were back at Site 14 again. This doesn't make sense, I said. Maybe you're just tired. I'm not tired. The road doesn't loop. It goes straight. Clearly it doesn't. I tried 3 more times, and each time, we ended up back at the campground. On the 4th try, I started crying. Not sobbing, just silent tears running down my face. Marcus reached over and put his hand on my shoulder. It's okay, he said. We can leave tomorrow. Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. You're just stressed. We'll get some rest and try again in the morning. I didn't argue. I was too exhausted. We went back into the RV and I locked the door behind us. Marcus made dinner, canned soup, crackers, and we ate in silence. Afterwards, I went to bed early, even though it was barely 7 p.m. I just wanted the day to be over. I woke up to voices. It was dark outside. I checked my phone. 11:23 p.m. The voices were coming from just outside the RV, low and murmuring like a conversation. I got up and looked out the window. Marcus was standing near the tree line, talking to someone. I couldn't see who, the shadows were too thick, but I could hear the other voice. Low and rasping like someone speaking through gravel. I opened the door and called out. Marcus? He turned and looked at me. In the faint light from the RV, I could see his face clearly. He wasn't smiling, but his mouth was open slightly, like he was in the middle of saying something. His eyes were wide and unblinking. "Who are you talking to?" He didn't answer, just stared at me. "Marcus, come inside." He turned back toward the trees, said something I couldn't hear, and then walked back to the RV. As he passed me, I caught his arm. "Who was that?" "No one." "I heard someone talking." "You were dreaming." "I wasn't dreaming." "I heard." "You were dreaming, Ava." He went inside and I stood there in the doorway staring at the trees. There was no one there, no movement, no sound. But I knew what I'd heard. I locked the door and went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to Marcus breathe, slow and steady until the sun came up. The next morning I told him I was driving us out, and he wasn't allowed to argue. He agreed without protest, which should have been a relief, but somehow made me more uneasy. We got in the car, and I drove down the dirt road again, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. This time, we didn't loop back. The road took us to the highway, and I pulled onto the pavement with a gasp of relief. Marcus sat silently in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. We were about 10 miles down the highway when he spoke. "We should go back." "What?" "No, we're going home." "I left something." "We have everything." I checked. "No, I left something important." "Marcus, I'm not turning around." "Please, Ava, it'll just take a minute." "Absolutely not." He went quiet after that, but I could feel him staring at me. Not looking, staring, like he was studying me, analyzing me. I kept my eyes on the road and tried to ignore it. We stopped for gas about an hour later. Marcus got out to use the bathroom and I stayed in the car checking my phone. The GPS was working again. I pulled up the route home, 3 hours and 22 minutes. Doable. Marcus came back and got in the car. I started the engine, pulled out of the gas station, and headed for the highway. "Turn here," Marcus said. "That's not the right way." "Turn here." His voice was flat. Not angry, not insistent, just flat. "Marcus, the GPS says..." "Turn here, Ava." I kept driving. He reached over and grabbed the steering wheel, jerking it to the right. We swerved onto a side road and I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop on the shoulder. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I shouted. He didn't answer, just unbuckled his seatbelt, got out of the car, and started walking. "Marcus!" He didn't stop, didn't look back, just walked down the side road, his hands in his pockets like he was taking a casual stroll. I sat there for a full minute trying to process what had just happened. Then I got out of the car and ran after him. "Marcus, stop!" He didn't stop. I caught up to him and grabbed his arm, spinning him around. He looked at me with that same blank expression, his eyes unfocused and distant. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Going back." "Back where?" "The church." "Why?" "I have to." "Marcus, we're going home. Get in the car." "No. This isn't a negotiation. Get in the car." He pulled his arm free and kept walking. I stood there watching him go and felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack, like glass under pressure. I got back in the car, turned it around, and drove home alone. That was 4 weeks ago. The police searched Ocala National Forest for 5 days. They found our campsite, the RV, all our supplies. They found the trail we'd hiked, the clearing where the church should have been. But the church was gone. Just an empty clearing surrounded by trees. No evidence that a building had ever stood there. They found Marcus on the 6th day. He was sitting at our campsite, in the same folding chair he'd used that first night, staring at the trees. He didn't resist when they brought him in. Didn't speak, just stared. I went to see him at the hospital. They'd put him in the psychiatric ward, said he was catatonic, unresponsive. But when I walked into his room, he looked at me. Not with recognition exactly, just looked. "Marcus?" I said. His mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I stepped closer. "What?" He leaned forward slightly and I saw it then. His eyes. They weren't his anymore. They were someone else's looking out from inside his face. Something old and patient and utterly inhuman. "You should have stayed," he whispered. "I left the hospital and haven't been back. The doctors say he's improving, that he's starting to respond to treatment. They think he had a psychotic break, triggered by stress and isolation. They've put him on medication, started therapy. They're optimistic about his recovery. But I know better. I know what I saw in that church. I know what happened to Marcus in that clearing, and I know that whatever came back with him from the forest isn't him. Not entirely, maybe not at all. Sometimes late at night I get texts from his phone, just pictures. Always the same thing. A clearing in the forest, trees surrounding an empty space. And sometimes if I zoom in close enough I can see a shadow in the corner of the frame. A shadow that doesn't match the trees or the light or anything else in the picture. A shadow that doesn't move. Last week his mother called and said he'd been released, that he was doing much better, that he'd asked about me. She gave me his new address, an apartment downtown close to where we used to live. She said he wanted to see me, to apologize, to explain. I haven't gone, I don't think I will. Because 2 nights ago I woke up at 2:47 a.m. and looked out my bedroom window. There was someone standing on the sidewalk below, staring up at my apartment. I couldn't see their face in the darkness, but I knew who it was. I knew by the way they stood, perfectly still, hands in their pockets. I closed the curtains and went back to bed. When I woke up this morning, there were muddy footprints on my balcony, leading from the railing to my bedroom window, then back again. I live on the 4th floor. Tonight I'm staying with a friend across town. Tomorrow I'm looking for a new place to live. Somewhere far from here. Somewhere far from Ocala National Forest. But I don't think it matters. I think whatever's inside Marcus knows where I am. I think it's always known. And I think it's been waiting. The shadows in my apartment don't move anymore. I noticed it this morning, just before I left. The ones in the corners, under the furniture, behind the doors. They're fixed in place, dark and motionless, no matter how the light changes. Just like the ones in the church. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I'm supposed to run or stay or do something else entirely. All I know is that every night the shadows get a little bigger, a little closer, and sooner or later, I'm going to run out of light. My name is Ava Harris, and I think Marcus brought something back with him from the forest. Something that lives in the places where light can't reach. Something that's been waiting for me to stop running. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened, what's still happening. If you're reading this and you ever find yourself near Ocala National Forest, if you ever see an abandoned church in a clearing that isn't on any map, don't go inside. Don't look at the shadows. And if someone you love goes missing in that forest and comes back wrong, don't let them near you. Because whatever's in that church doesn't just take people, it replaces them. And once it has you, it never lets go. I can hear something outside my friend's apartment now. Footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate. 3 knocks on the door. The shadows in this room aren't moving either. I think I'm out of time.